Congratulations on the new deal, the new partnership. Tell me about the significance of that and how significant that's going to be moving forward throughout 2017.
Well, I've known David for a long time. I was involved in some of his fights early on as well, including the one where he won the world title against Valuev, the giant, in Nuremberg, and we remained friends. And so when I saw David last fall in New York, actually doing the Frampton-Santa Cruz fight, the first fight, we started talking, and he was expressing to me his interest in getting involved on the promotion side in England, and so we started to kick around some ideas and so on, and pretty soon we realized that we're totally on the same page. I mean, David is one of the most charismatic and smartest guys out there, thinking outside the box. I mean, if you look at the way he has promoted himself and his career, there's really no other fighter, maybe one other which comes to mind, and that's Floyd Money Mayweather. And so he really gets it, and I like to work with people like that, just like I've done with Floyd. And so one thing led to the other, and it was very quickly how we formed that 50-50 partnership with Ringstar and Hayemaker. And I'm excited because I was always waiting for an opportunity to enter the UK market. I was always attracted to the UK market. I always said, and I firmly believe, that the UK fight fans are the best fight fans in the world. They're very passionate about the sport, very passionate about their athletes. And I was always, even back in my Golden Boy days, I was always thinking about ways to really enter the UK market, and never really figured out how to until David and me started talking and developing the ideas of Hayemaker Ringstar. And so I'm very excited. I'm excited for the sport. I'm excited for the fans here in the UK. I'm excited for myself, of course, but what I'm really most excited about is for the fighters, because this really sort of like when we had Golden Boy, it shifted the paradigm a bit from the fighters working for the promoter to the other way around, where the promoter works for the fighters. I'm known to be a very much pro-fighter promoter, empowering the fighters. Like here, I mean, David is thinking about his life after being an active boxer, and so I'm happy to help him establish a boxing promotion company, just like I was helping Floyd with Mayweather Promotions and Oscar, obviously, with Golden Boy. So I'm very much pro-fighter, and I look forward to signing some of the young emerging talent here in the UK and show them what we can do to really build them up as global stars. But just like I was with Golden Boy, I'm going to be open for business as well. We are going to be open for business as well for any other big name free agents, should they be free agents, to really make them the most money they can.
You've touched on a few points I was going to make, and a few questions I was going to ask, but what do you think is behind the boxing revolution in the UK? 13 world champions, growing marketplace. Obviously, you've been attracted to come over here. Why is it so healthy? What's contributing to that?
Well, it's the fans. It starts with the fans and it ends with the fans. They really have propelled the sport of boxing and have encouraged young kids to go to the gym and work extra hard and then turn pro and fulfill their dream to become world champions. And I think when you sort of like look back on what was like the trigger point to that whole thing, to that real emergence. I mean, boxing in the UK was always big, historically. It was always big. But it's a star-driven sport as well. And when you see what happened in the 2012 Olympics here in London, I think that sort of like was a bit a trigger point, because yeah, exactly. You had obviously Anthony Joshua come out of that, and I think Anthony Joshua really elevated the sport even more so here in the UK than it was before. And it takes that one athlete sort of like to really move the needle, and we've seen that in other sports as well. We've seen it in golf with Tiger Woods. Ever since Tiger Woods sort of like has disappeared from where he once was, golf doesn't produce the same kind of ratings on TV or the same kind of enthusiasm. We've seen it with basketball in the United States, where you had Michael Jordan, and I'm sure here with UK football, when you have these big names, they really can change the fabric of of a football club and of the fan base and of everything. I think we've seen that here, that Anthony Joshua factor, and so that I think that's one of the reasons why the UK is so big now, and that's why I'm so excited as well about my recent signing this week of Tony Yoka, the super heavyweight gold medalist in France from the Olympics in Rio, and he I think is the kind of guy who can really elevate boxing in France again to where it used to be, because France is another example with a rich and deep history of boxing, and it takes that one guy to really spark that flame, and I think with Tony Yoka we will have that in France.
Obviously, Ringstar, you just touched on the fact that you're signing fighters anyway, but how much is the partnership between Hayemaker and Ringstar incumbent upon David being still active as a fighter in order to kind of cement your position in the marketplace?
Well, I think it definitely opens doors. Just like, back in the day when we started Golden Boy, Oscar was still an active fighter, and it obviously helped to open doors, and with TV networks, with other fighters, and so on. But it's not really about that, because the fact is, David is a charismatic guy. He is a very accomplished fighter already. He is an undisputed cruiserweight champion, a former heavyweight champion. I mean, he really has already a very deep resume as it relates to boxing. So it's not really depending on David as an active fighter. I mean, it certainly helps, but it doesn't really. It's not really built on that.
You couldn't really tell us who you've been negotiating with. Could you share some of the people you've been negotiating with in terms of broadcasters?
It's coming down to 3 networks. We're going to have another meeting today, David and me and his team, and then we're going to be sitting down tonight and decide on who we want to go with. So I like as well the way David is sort of like thinking outside of the box when it comes to networks. Because, like, for example, his last couple of fights, which were on a channel Dave, some people made fun of it because it's a comic channel, right? But when you look at it and you really take a step back and you see 3.2 million people watching, and those 3.2 million people were not all boxing fans. This is really about widening the horizon and widening the audience. And the boxing fans, by the way, they will find David Haye a David Haye fight on whatever channel he fights. But it's about getting those other people, the general market, interested into boxing. And what David Haye has done by fighting on that channel, Dave, he brought people which never seen boxing before, probably, to the sport. And they must have been intrigued by it, because otherwise they would have turned off the channel and you wouldn't have had 3.2 million people watching. So it's about building and expanding the sport, and that is what I like about David, that he thinks outside of the box. So, I think it's important to be on the terrestrial channel so that you have the widest possible distribution and that you can really build up those young fighters in front of the biggest possible audience. And the biggest possible audience, I am not just talking about boxing fans, I'm talking about general market.
Last question then. David versus Tony Bellew. Who wins what round, in a word?
I think David is. I really believe, including the other heavyweights, there is nobody there who can beat David Haye, and that includes Tony Bellew. But I really believe that David Haye has an opportunity within the next 12 to 18 months, if given the opportunity, to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I really, really believe that.
Thanks for your time, Richard.
Thank you.